We're Mishna Berura and Simon Reish Mem Ches. We're up to Siv Gimel over here. Just gonna go through it, see what happens from there. Then we're gonna learn a little bit about Shavuos. Shulchan Aruch says, "Hechi the mutter lahakli me'erev Shabbos." In a situation in which it's permissible to depart to go on a yacht, a boat, a ship on erev Shabbos. For example, we said that there were multiple cases, scenarios in which it's permissible even to go on the Friday itself. For example, if it was for a mitzvah. If a person entered onto the ship on the eve of Shabbos and Erev Shabbos, and he was what's called koine or shvisa. He acquired a place on the ship, and he made that's considered his place. We're going to learn more about that. Even though that the ship is actually sailing on Shabbos, it's still nevertheless going to be permissible. So even though that it's setting sail on Shabbos is permissible, assuming that he didn't exit, he didn't leave from the ship. He didn't leave from the ship from the time that he was koine shvisa, that he set that spot. And he made that area on the ship. So what exactly does this mean to be koine shvisa? So the Mishna Berura over here in Yud Tes speaks out Perish the Machaber loy kamer le'el lahatir afilu benaharus hanoivim ulamayla me'asor lovahaf be'erev Shabbos aval b'Shabbos loy v'kan osi l'orid l'pamim after Shabbos mut lahaf lehem. Wow, so the Shulchan Aruch earlier only permitted going in rivers that are flowing and that are above 10 tfachim, 30 inches. That's only talking about if you go on the eve of Shabbos over here, but on Shabbos they never permitted such a thing. Over here it's saying even on Shabbos itself it's permissible. Wow, 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 wow. So the insight over here is you could go on the ship before Shabbos, what's called koine shvisa, you make it your domain, and then you could actually set sail on Shabbos itself. Now comes along the next Mishna Berura on Chav Shvisa. Being koine shvisa, setting it up as a spot, means that you sit there in between sunset on the eve of Shabbos and when three stars come out. Say Tzulchavim, aka Bein Hashmashos. V'hu shelo yatsa. Shulchan Aruch over here in Chaf Aleph came along and said that this is assuming that you didn't leave the ship from the time that you were koine the shvisa, the time when you made it your spot. If that wouldn't be so, says the Mishna Berura Chaf Aleph, also li kones ba b'Shabbos, it will be prohibited to enter into that ship on Shabbos. Chenira keshad al pnei hamayim, because it looks like you're swimming, you're floating on the water. B'zeh aser kimosha kasus simin shin lamites. This will be prohibited as it's discussed over there.
The Shvisa takes that away.
That's correct. You have to be there the whole time. Says the Ramah, v'yesh ha'imrim, da'afilu yotzim min asvina shari d'machar shekana shvisa me'erev Shabbos motorach akal kanas ba b'Shabbos lahaflik. Some say that even if you left the physical premises of the ship, it would still be permissible since you set it as a spot, you made it your spot. On the eve of Shabbos, it's permissible afterwards to enter in and even depart on Shabbos once you make that spot. Comes along the Mishna Berura in the Chav Beis. D'machar shekana haynu de'al yedei zeh havi le hasvina kebeisai ve'ina nira keshat keshenichnos ba b'Shabbos. Meaning that through this, the ship is actually, interestingly enough, going to be considered like your house, and it doesn't look like you are swimming when you go onto it on Shabbos. And even according to this opinion, it won't help to set a spot on the ship to be koine the shvisa unless that will only setting that spot will only help that it will be permissible to go in the ship on Shabbos itself. Aval keshemagia acher kach liyabasha also loy lozuz ma'arba amoisav. But when you reach the dry land afterwards, it's prohibited to remove yourself from the 4 amos. So in other words, next time everyone comes on my yacht and we go on Shabbos and we park the ship and we go to a new destination in Shabbos, we can't get off the yacht. We have to stay on the yacht.
Wait, does it matter if it's a Jewish owned? Doesn't matter if
No,
it's
no difference. For sure, no difference. The owner doesn't matter. The question is who's driving it. So obviously, since I have a $10 million yacht, I'm not going to drive it myself unless I want to. I'm going to have a special ship captain who's going to run the show. But still, even though he's driving and steering the ship, nevertheless, it'll be a problem to get off. V'im hagia hasfina.
Wait, no. So what happens if they tell you that either get off and you have to go to the next stop? What's better to
I
it's
mean,
a
when we were learning about planes, we learned if they make you get off the plane, you have to get off the plane. You're not obligated to get arrested in order, not to violate Shabbos over here. But
no.
when it's since it's my yacht, I can make my own decisions.
What happens if they tell you we're getting all right? So what's if you either get off the plane or you're not going to get arrested, but we're just going to go to the next stop. It's a connecting flight, and you're just going to have to go to the next
You
stop.
could probably stay, but I don't think legally they would do that. Number one. Number two is that most times people don't own the boat, so you got to be careful not to put yourself in this situation over here that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Ve'im hegia hasfina
No.
liyarmukis mechitzo is ayin sham behaga. And if the ship is going to reach a city that's surrounded by walls, look over there in the Ramah. Do
It's
you
a
have any more
connecting.
questions or?
It's a connecting flight. When these places, you're refueling. They're refueling on Shabbos. They're refueling on Shabbos. Let's say like at Tzitz, and you can get off. They're not going to force you off because you're part of the connecting flight. So you have a seat for the flight, and it's going to keep on going. It's just stopping to refuel.
Yeah, you
Is
should
it?
try to stay on, preferably. What do you mean?
Oh, so I mean, it's better to stay on
Yeah, the
and
refueling is none of your business.
but
You got to figure out all the stuff before.
you
By the
could
way, I
depart
hope
the
you
way.
have me in mind when you're drinking. Over here, I'm thirsty like crazy, doing all the talking. You're feasting on beverages. Aval imlo yotze mehasvina. Have me in mind, yeah. Aval imlo yotze mehasvina meisha kana shvisa. But if you didn't leave the ship from at the time, L'chaim. But if you didn't leave the ship from
You
the
can say
time that you
you say l'chaim on water.
and you could say l'chaim on anything. I could say l'chaim on air if I want to. It's not a
Sure.
bracha levatala. Ava, good shaila though. Ava, I have another shaila for you. Where does it come from to say l'chaim? By Noah Cholbam, he has a tshuva, and his child's tshuva is minchas chen. He gives like 10 reasons for saying l'chaim.
Wow.
Yeah, he goes into it. It's a big chassidish zach. It's a big yidzach, to do it. Al kopunim. Kopanim, what's the hezbollah over here? Aval imlo yotza mehasvina me'esha kana shvisa. But if you didn't come off of the ship from at the time when you acquired that spot, mutter acher kach leilech b'makom she'agil liyabasha ad alpayim l'kol ruach. So it'll be permissible afterwards to go in a place where you will reach the dry land up until 2,000 amos. So what's it saying over here? This is saying that if you didn't get off of the ship from the time when you made it your spot, you were koina shvisa, so then you could go wherever you want up until 2,000 amos. If you didn't leave the ship, if you didn't leave the ship from when you were koina your shvisa,
okay.
so you have a head there, David, of going 2,000 amos off the ship. Mutter ach, David, you still there or you gone? Mutter acher kach leilech b'makoim sheyagia liyabasha hasvina. Sorry. Mutter acher kach leilech b'makom sheyagia liyabasha alpayim l'kol ruach. Right, you go 2,000 amos in any direction, so it's gonna be around 3,000, 4,000 feet. But Emila Kishaya Svina Loilam Amalam Asar Tvachim. This is talking about the ship was above 10 Tvachim Konvorum Hasham, as it's explained over there. Ubesvina Gufo, regarding the ship itself, Mahalech Eskulo, Afilu Yim Yatzim Be'erev Lebeisoi, Acher Shekona Shvisa. On the ship itself, you could go in the entire ship, anywhere in the ship, even if it left, Afilu Yim Yatzim Be'erev, from night to the house, after you were Koina Shvisa. Kevin Shabbos ba'avir mechitzim b'voyom. Since you were there when it's still day, David, you still there, or are you zoomed out?
I'm here.
So the answer to the plane question is right over here. You see that you're allowed to go anywhere on the plane, right? You're allowed to go anywhere on the ship. That's what you see from over here.
Yeah.
And the common look over there if you didn't do it. By the way, we said on planes that a person shouldn't go on a plane, even if it's going to be in the air the entire Shabbos.
Yeah, we said that.
We did say that. I'm just to remind everyone.
Do they have that?
Yeah,
$25
Australia, I
flight?
think their flights are 26 hours.
No, but you can't, it's not direct flight.
Direct, yeah, they have.
Direct 25-hour
That's
flight?
right. That's right. They have now Australia, New York,
Whoa.
Sydney, I think. Because
I
one of
think
my
it's- I think it's some-
Papuses, his in-laws live in Australia.
Wow.
So people complain about their kids. Oh, they live
Jersey.
in Jersey, they live
Lakewood.
in Baltimore, they live in Lakewood, they geez, even yeah. And now then the other one's going to Israel. You know? You think Israel's bad? That's nothing compared to Australia. Yeah, you got to go far away to see those kangaroos. Those things are big, apparently.
Kind of dangerous.
Those kangaroos, yeah. You don't want to mess with the kangaroos. Yeah. Okay. Chaf Gimel in the Mishnah Berura. Afilu im chal Yom Tov erev Shabbos shar likna shvisa. Even if Yom Tov falls out on erev Shabbos, it's still permissible to make the shvisa over here. Ve'im b'zeh mishum achanim Yom Tov l'Shabbos. It's not considered preparing from Yom Tov to Shabbos. B'namol azeh hakinyan shvisa shekanim erev Yom Tov. It doesn't help doing the shvisa on erev Yom Tov. Okay, look over there. Be'izu oifen ein moter hachana where you can do it.
There's a Friday.
That's right. Still permissible.
We're still allowed to make a
Big
shvisa.
fetish, I would think. Comes the Ramah. Some kiddush basfina, right? You got to do kiddush on the ship when you're there on Shabbos. Don't forget about that. Afterwards, you could return your house and dwell over there.
And the ship didn't leave yet, I guess.
Yes, ulamacher choizin l'sfina, but you were kind of shvisa, and the next day you go back to be kind of to the ship, and then it takes sail. This is what the custom is in a few places, and you should not protest those who do this. Mishna Berura over here on the top right. Regarding this opinion, you have to sit there the entire bein hashmashos as well. The kinyan shvisa to make that your set spot. But they hold that preferably you should make kiddush over there and eat a little bit in order to publicize the matter that you are going to be koine shvisa and you won't come to suspect them. One interesting question is, most of the time people, they view their ships or their RVs that they have as it's an extra, right? However, some actually live on them full time. A ship or an RV, houseboat. So it's an interesting shot in Hilchos Mezuzah. Is it obligated mezuzah or not? Just wanted to pose the question to get you to think. And this is the story with being the Kohen Shvisa business. So Sif Dalad is longer. It's the last Sif in the Siman. And we're going to come back to another time. We're going to do some stuff on Shulas now. Any other questions on what we did today? Okay, so the plan is at the remaining of the Siman we have Sif Dalad to do. We covered a lot of the big topics with the elevators, the planes, the trains, the buses, the scootering, the bikes, etc. So we do have a little bit left. I want to finish going through some other svarim on top of Mishna Berura, see what there is to add in. We'll finish this and see what the chidushim we come out with, and then I think we're just going to go straight to the next siman, Reish Mem Tes. I think we'll go in order. All right, let's do some.